terror is.
Hello.
Do you live here?
Nobody lives here.
Real terror. How long has it been since you've been on Elm Street? Welcome to a brand new nightmare. He is the first in fear.
Will you help me? I'm going for someone. Help me, please.
Second to none.
Don't let them put you to sleep.
He has no mercy. And no equal.
Now no one sleeps.
Get ready. This August, your wildest dreams will come true.
How sweet, fresh meat.
A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 4. The Dream Master.
Welcome back to a brand new episode of ReconCinemation. I'm your host, John Diner.
I'm David Munchak.
And I'm Brent Hutchins.
And this is the podcast that takes a look back at some of our favorite films from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we're checking out how they hold up here in today's world. And that's right, it's officially Shocktober. We teased it last week with Alligator.
We made it. We're here.
We did it.
We started with Alligator.
Well, it's like Christmas starts earlier every year. Shocktober is going to have to start earlier every year.
Yeah, looks like.
I'm totally in. I'm down for a year of Shocktober. I know. This is there's probably no
That's a different
horrible sounding words coming out of anybody's mouth to David than a year of Shocktober. But
oh my God.
But this Shocktober is very special because we have our 80s franchises that we're right in the middle of that we're going to hit an installment of each one all month long. And we could not do this episode without the return of the Freddy to our Jason, our Michael Myers, and our Leatherface. Welcome back, E.K. Wimmer from Laser Graves.
Hey, you shouldn't have buried me. I'm not dead.
It's great to have you back.
Hey, guys.
Yo.
Yeah. How's it going? What's going on?
It's great. We're excited to be here because we're talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master.
Yeah.
So it's our ongoing series, the four of us together talking about the Nightmare movies.
That's right. And this Dream Master happens to be the second movie in the Dream trilogy within the franchise of Nightmare on Elm Street. So I'm excited. This one's a lot of fun.
The trilogy within the, what do you call 8 movies? An
octology.
Octology.
That sounds like a science of some sort.
Sounds like a doctor.
I'm a doctor of octology.
Yeah.
It's like a dream within a dream. The trilogy within the
That's right.
octology.
It's the Inception. It's the Nightmare on Elm Street Inception. It's the Inception of I don't know.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Part 6 is an Inception. We'll get there.
Oh,
just like the ending of Inception, this conversation is confusing.
Well, before we get into Nightmare on Elm Street, EK, tell us what's going on with Laser Graves. What's the latest?
Staying busy. Keep going. Just plugging along. I'd say this is the first year of all the years we've been doing it where we're finding it's hard to stay a little on schedule because we've been pretty busy. but we're discovering that our listeners are very forgiving. If we are maybe a tad bit late on an episode or two, but the bonus is it means we're still doing it. So it has to be a little bit of a trade-off, but seasons in life, and sometimes you got a lot of free time and sometimes you just don't. But I'm happy to still be podcasting, that's for sure.
When you have a great show, the audience will be forgiving. They're gonna hang in there a few extra days. They'll wait around.
Yeah, I mean, Kiss did their reunion farewell tour 4 times or whatever, and people are still coming. So, whatever. there you go.
The fans will always show up.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to have you back. You joined us for our looks back at Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and 3, which you can check those out in the archives at ReconCinemation.com, along with the original Nightmare on Elm Street, which we covered a few years ago. But let's get into it, and we're going to start with our new segment, 6 Degrees of ReconCinemation. Brent, you're going to pick a movie that by the end of the episode, the rest of us are going to connect to Nightmare on Elm Street 4 within 6 moves, like the Kevin Bacon game.
Let's see, Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I'm going to keep it. I just listened to our Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and in that podcast, I mentioned this movie. So I think let's go with Dreamscape from 1984, which was the same year that the original Nightmare on Elm Street premiered. So we're going to go Dreamscape.
Okay, keeping it in the dream zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I say it was 1984 with Nightmare on Elm Street 4?
You
Maybe.
did. You did.
But that's not true because that's 1988. Sorry, I've just got a lot of 84 on the brain.
So, yeah. We've been talking about it a lot lately. But okay, so we will connect Dreamscape to Dream Master by the end of the episode.
Yeah, I figure I'm staying with the dream, the horror dream genre, the nightmare genre.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense.
All right, good luck. I wish you the best.
Thank you.
So, Brent, set the table. What's happening in? Let's rewind. Let's go back in time to August 1988. What's happening in the world?
August 1988. Let's see. I'll do one better for you, John. I'm going to talk specifically about August 19th, 1988. This time around, we're going to start dialing in a little bit closer on these way back bits. Yeah. And I'm gonna talk specifically about the day. So August 19th, 1988 was a Friday. Obviously it was the summer, so it was getting warmer. Top song on the Billboard charts at that time on that day was Roll With It by Steve Winwood. Ronald Reagan, our boy Ronald, was still president in 88, rocking it. Young Guns was the top movie at the box office. The top shows that were on around that time that people would be watching on a Friday night, like August 19th, 1988, were going to be like Cheers, Charles in Charge, Star Trek, The Next Generation, MacGyver, although those were on Monday, I know, because the off season was Monday Night Football, and I'd always be mad because back then I didn't like football, and MacGyver it's not on the air, and I was pissed. What else is going on, man? I get a little fashion forward with you guys. In the late 80s, short skirts, shoulder pads, and animal print were all the fad for the ladies. And the guys were rocking some Air Jordans, a lot of denim, and a lot of tracksuits in the late 80s, which, John, I know you're a fan of.
I'm a fan.
Because of your love for The Sopranos. You also have a love for tracksuits.
I may have bought a number of tracksuits when The Sopranos started airing. That may be true.
That is true. I can vouch. I saw it. I lived it.
Yep.
I lived it. John and his tracksuit days.
And they were different colors too. I had to change it up.
They were. They really were. This is not even a bit. That's true stories. Let's see what else. Video games were also really happening in 88. Tetris was a big deal. Double Dragon, Maniac Mansion. Those were like kind of the top video games at the time. So, 88, man. Rock and roll.
Nice.
Oh,
all right.
Yeah, good year.
Yeah, it was a good year.
David, catch everybody up who maybe they don't remember. Maybe they don't remember Nightmare on Elm Street 4 specifically. So why don't you catch everybody up? What's happening in this movie?
Well, it's written by Brian Helgeland. Am I saying that right?
Helgeland, yeah.
Helgeland, and then Jim and Ken Wheat, and directed by Rennie Harlan, who we've had on the podcast before. A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, sees the return of Freddy Krueger to Elm Street, and the remaining Dream Warriors battle a once more resurrected Freddy in their dreams, only to have a new group of teens take up the fight. As usual, the parents just don't understand what's happening, and the teens are taken out one by one. So whether it's through a brutal asthma attack, the sick waterbed drowning, a Kafka-esque transformation, or just some knives to the gut, Freddy seems unstoppable. But one teen inherits Kristen's dream powers and confronts Freddy, the true Quip Master, once and for all.
Nice.
I like
that was well done. Yeah.
I like the play on parents just don't understand because, just to put it all together, Will Smith's two best songs ever were Parents Just Don't Understand and Nightmare on My Street. And if you haven't heard that one, check it out.
Very true. All coming to a head right here.
And I think this is the movie that we can crown. This is the start of Freddy as a true Quip Master. Right? I mean,
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I think 3 planted the seeds, but
Yes.
4 is like when it really got heavy-handed. No doubt.
Welcome to Prime Time is the one that started it in the third movie.
Four is the one where if he was in the Olympics as a gymnast, just did the perfect routine between going too far and not going enough, because that's the way I see it. It's like, and not just in the puns and everything. It's going to be in every account. 4 is like his 10 score performance at the Olympics. This is, for me, I'm going to front load it and I'm not going to apologize. 4 is kind of the perfect balance. And I think a lot of that is about the puns, because they're fun, but they're not quite part 5, 6,
They're not that good, to be honest. They're okay.
Yeah, EK, so I'm with you. So this is interesting for me upon rewatching, because I know we're about to get into the whole, like, what were your win, blah, blah. Yeah, all that. But I will say that I used to love this one for all those reasons, but upon rewatching it, it didn't land for me as much. And I feel like 3 was kind of a better balance for me specifically. But I'm totally with you, because this one, because of the hype machine surrounding this one and like just everything that we're going to discuss, like this one for a long time was exactly in that sweet spot for me. But it was weird. Like upon this, like researching for our record, like it missed a little bit, which was interesting. I didn't expect that, because I think for the longest time I felt like this is my favorite of the the movie. Yeah,
that's the point of the podcast, right?
Yeah, it was interesting.
Well, it's always I've always thought that, especially with Freddy, because he changes so much throughout the franchise, that it's what version of Freddy is your Freddy? For me, like, I love part 1. Part 1 will always be my favorite, but that's a completely different Freddy than, starting with 3 and then definitely 4 and 5 and 6. And this is just such a different ball game at this point in the series for many different reasons, which we'll get into. But it's kind of like whatever is your Freddy. Maybe it's 3, which is a mix of both, or 4, like you, EK, where it's like it is all about the one-liners, the delivery, him as the character.
Yeah, I would say, and we'll get on, at the end we'll come back to this, but I would say, yes, I agree. The puns are horrible in this, and everything about it is pretty cheesy. And I don't think this is my favorite Freddy, but I think that this is probably the most quintessential Freddy Krueger of all the movies. If people were to say the most pop culture balanced Freddy, would probably be part 4, in my opinion. Whether it's the best Freddy or not is a different conversation. But like, if I was to think of the classic Freddy, Here it is,
Yeah,
right
I
here.
would-
You know, it's a good balance of humor, scary, all of that.
Yeah, I would actually, on that point, I would agree completely. Especially the look. Like, I don't know, I found myself when watching him in this one, his look to me felt like the look that I remembered as a child, and I think it's because like this is right before, Freddy's Nightmares. Like, there's a bunch of like MTV stuff happening. There's a bunch of like, I don't know, like Six Flags, and we had Astro World in Houston, but like they would have like horror nights, and Freddy was like the star of those, and it was like The Mask and all that were kind of this Freddy.
Well, David polled 323 people outside our studio right here.
323, you said?
Yep.
Yeah.
That was the limit. That was the most he said he'd do.
That was everybody.
But but 94% of them said Part 4 was their favorite movie.
Oh, wow. I didn't see
right.
that one coming. That's for sure.
right, David?
Yeah, they all had they all had it in the chamber. No one had to really think about it. There was maybe like 4 teenagers who waffled between 6 and 4, and had to think about it. But otherwise, I was getting elderly people, I was getting kids, I was getting non-English speakers. They all, when I said, "What's your favorite?" they had it in the chamber.
Dream Master. Boom.
Dream Master.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to come clean and apologize to you guys. I feel it's been keeping me up at night. I can't hold it in anymore. My wife's mad at me because we've gone bankrupt. I paid all of those people off to say Part 4. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What?
Skewing the results.
Yeah.
Money well spent.
Yeah, I do it again in a second.
No, but I think this is the one that is, if you ask around for Freddy fans and Nightmare on Elm Street fans, this is kind of the one that most people will point to as their favorite. Either it's the one that, was hit at they were the right age when they saw it, or it just hit that right tone, that mix, and it was definitely getting friendlier for a younger audience with this one. Yeah. So a lot of reasons.
Jason was like the 4th movie is kind of like when you finally have Jason Voorhees as Jason Voorhees, right? Kind of.
No,
yeah.
Third.
That's the third movie.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I mean, he's in the second, but the third's when he gets his mask. That's what you guys are thinking. Yeah,
gets the mask, but doesn't he still in like overalls in that one? Or
he doesn't have the full Jason look from start to finish isn't until the 4th movie.
Okay, so but 3 sets of up.
3 sets it up. Yeah,
and then 4 is where
he's not wearing a paper bag on his head anymore.
Yeah.
It's a potato sack at bed. Paper bag. Come on, man.
Yeah, it's not a fedora. That's for damn sure.
All right. So when EK, let's start with you. When was the first time you saw it? Did you was it a home video? Did you see it when it came out or later?
Yeah, no. So this is the only reason I'm actually surprised people do like this one, because growing up, it was Part 3 was typically the one people thought was really cool. Part 2, as we talked about, I'm so glad is starting to get love years later, because I think that's probably the creepiest Freddy. Part 1 for me, and still to date, is probably my favorite Freddy, because I think it's the one that I remember the best, and I think it's the scariest. But Part 4 was the one that I was introduced to Freddy in a way that I could rewatch. So I saw Part 1 and Part 2 at a friend's house. We weren't supposed to see it, but it was kind of a one and done. I didn't get to revisit it. Same with Part 3, but Part 4 was, and I don't know if I've told this story in the podcast before, but my dad had a friend at work and he dubbed all these VHS tapes, movies and stuff. And because we didn't have a VCR at the time, and then he brought one home one day and he had a box full of recorded movies. So it was like all of a sudden we had a video store in our house, and it was a big, big moment. So that's where I got my love for Escape from New York and all these, Clash of the Titans. And in there was Nightmare on Elm Street 4, which meant this was the first time I could, when I had a moment, pop it in on my own time and rewatch it. And I just would watch it over and over and over. And so for me I was right after it came out. So maybe 9 years old or something. Perfect time, perfect time to be a little scared, but also think he was pretty cool and be able to learn the lines and just study what was going on. And so that's the reason, really, if I'm being totally honest. It's not like that I think this movie is the best or he's at his peak. I just think that it was the first one I was able to actually really connect with multiple times and not just once.
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally get that. Brent, what about you?
Yeah, I remember begging like my dad. We would go on bike rides, and we would bike ride through the neighborhood, and the entire time I'd just be begging him to go see this movie in the theater, because I was fully caught up in the Freddy frenzy and aware, like coming off the heels of part 3. Like I was a diehard fan, but I was only 10 when this came out, so it's like not old enough to really like. It's got to be like you got to go with a parent and all that. It's not, you're not just getting in to go see this movie. But I begged and begged and begged and was denied cold hard no the entire time. And so I didn't see it until it came out on VHS, but over the course of when it was released in the theater and when it came out on VHS, I never quit pounding my dad. Nice. That's awesome.
That's EK is holding up the Nightmare on Elm Street 4 VHS video cassette.
Yeah, you know, I like to do every episode. I have to do a show and tell for a listener base.
Yeah,
because that's what you do. You show things they can't see.
Yeah. That's right. That's what makes it so good. That's what makes it so good.
This is what little baby you was holding and begging his parents for.
I mean, I just imagine now if one of my kids had just been this damn pushy, like I would lose my mind. But I continued to grind on this request throughout the summer and fall and until the movie came out on VHS. And as soon as it came out on VHS, he cracked and he was like, yes, watch it. And I watched it over and over and over again. I loved this movie so much because it had all those like kind of, for me at the time, you know, what I thought were hilarious one-liners and quips and things like that. And on top of it, like there was this like special effects kind of presentation that had been done that I think was maybe done on MTV or from some company. I don't exactly remember where I saw it, but I remember seeing all the behind the scenes, like special effects stuff. And like, I was fully into this movie. And so
I'm pretty sure that was MTV because I remember the same campaign they were doing.
Yeah. So like I had seen that and I had recorded that on VHS and watched it over and over again. And so by the time this thing finally dropped on video, like I was fully in. Like that next winter, like I got really into special effects makeup and like asked my parents to get me like latex and all sorts of shit.
Yeah, of course. Gotta be Freddy for Halloween.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I had the glove, like it was on, and it was all based off this movie, and I was really into it. It's also when I learned that I'm a really shitty special effects makeup person and quit.
That was where your career started.
Being a career goal.
Started and ended. Boy.
When you were 10 years old, your first
10 years
attempt.
old, I was like, this, I cannot make a Freddy mask. I suck.
Yeah, biggest stars burn brightest and then die.
Yeah, exactly.
Not like our boy Corey Feldman. And
no, he was awesome.
He was like, great at making masks.
If Corey can do it, why can't I do it? Damn it. I still deal with that. I talk to my therapist about it pretty frequently. Anyway, but yeah, I was like fully in. But the first time I saw it, VHS, after it had released in theaters. But I knew everything about this movie prior to seeing it because I was like reading Fangoria magazine at the time. Like when we go to the grocery store, they would have it on the shelf and I would like look through it because I wouldn't necessarily be able to buy it, but I just like thumb through it and be like, yeah, all right, this is awesome. So I was fully cooked, man.
You were in.
Yeah.
The cult of Freddy was strong with this one.
It would, no doubt.
Looks like you get to keep your membership card to the horror fandom.
Well, it wasn't until the 5th movie that I finally saw one for the first time in the theater.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Which we'll talk about next year. But yeah, I'm just
save that story for a year from now.
Another time.
Tune in next year.
David, how about you? This is probably a 6th or 7th time watch for you, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I actually never went back to see this one. As legendarily I will recall, the first Freddy film I ever saw was Dream Child. At a friend's
Start
house.
with number 5.
Yeah,
That's the way to go.
trial by fire. Yeah.
And I didn't even want to see it, not necessarily. I wasn't really, but I think it might have been because Freddy was now this MTV personality entering the mainstream. A kid like me who wasn't watching horror movies is now like, oh, here's this funny whatever. So it's like, all right, like that's probably because he became popular is the reason I even bothered to watch the film with with my friends. So and then I just never got around to backfill, so this is like a first time watch.
Dream Child was enough for you for a while.
Yeah, well, and I the thing is I liked it, like I liked it enough to be like, oh, that okay, I kind of like, this was fine. Like I didn't get it. I didn't understand what was going on, storyline wise. I mean, this within itself, it makes sense, but like I didn't have any of the history or any of that. So anyway, yeah, this was a first time watch. This coming up for the recording of this podcast, and what a fun time it was to see Freddy in a whole lot of like spotlight. Like he is well lit in almost every single shot,
in every way too, like literally and figuratively.
But I think it was like, all right, we're gonna make this prosthetic shine. Like this prosthetic looks awesome, so we're gonna show off what we can do with it, I guess. But it doesn't, I feel like Freddy should just be wet all the time, the way he looks. Like, why isn't he wet? And he's not, he looks clean. He sort of looks, it's all very clean and kind of I don't know, a little too perfect for the screen, but this is such a bright movie. This is like there's very little that goes on in the dark.
Yeah, that's part of what is going along with the evolution of the franchise is that you compare 1 and 4, or say 4 and 5 together, like completely different looks, just lighting design wise for the movie. I mean, in the first movie and the second one too, like he is intentionally held in shadow. You really don't get a good look at him at all in the first one, maybe right at the very end. And yeah, he's wet. He's got that wet look as if he was just like the skin is raw from being like he's permanently raw from that burn. And he's a monster that you don't want to see what he looks like. And here it's full on 100% lighting, daytime. As we record this, EK is on the beach right now.
I am.
You must be very careful because
I'm looking for shark gloves right now.
Yeah.
I will
Freddy
say
likes the beach.
I think it was a good point though. It's true that the makeup looks so damn good that the first two, the budget's not there. Like you're building, and by the time you get to 4, it's a monumental franchise that you can pull those effects out of the shadows and showcase them in bright lights and kind of show off. I think that's what this film to me feels like that. Like it's really kind of a show off film of saying like, we're bringing in the best talent and we're going to show why Freddy's killing everybody at the box office or whatever, because look at how damn good this looks. We'll light it in broad daylight on the beach with sunglasses. I think that, maybe that doesn't work for everybody, because I would say that's what I loved about part 2 was that he was so dark and gritty, but it was also probably a clever way of disguising that the makeup was nowhere near on par with what it is by the time we get to 4, Yeah.
Well, and I think that I don't know, we'll get into this probably a little deeper, but in general, the special effects and Freddy and things like that, like part of those are kind of the highlights of this movie, right? Like, I mean, because there's not a lot of time dedicated to like character development. There's a lot of these new characters that are flat and like one-dimensional. It's all about focusing on Freddy and focusing on like these like special effects set pieces and things like that. And of course, some of them were really well done, and because they were so well done and so much money was spent on them, there wasn't a lot of money for all of them. And some of them are throwaway, but some of the ones that are done well are done really well.
Yeah, well, there's a very specific reason why this movie it leans so hard on the visuals and the gags and the set pieces rather than the story and the characters, and we'll come back to that in a little
Right.
bit. But
Yeah. Well, hey, what was your first experience, John? You didn't.
I remember seeing this. I was on a vacation the summer of 1989 in the lovely city of Groton, Connecticut.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Shout out.
Shout out to all our listeners.
Shout out
Yeah.
Groton.
We went we used to go on to some
You're
weird
thinking
vacations.
Groton. Is it Groton?
Is it Groton? I don't remember. Groton
It's
or Groton?
over by New London.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. You've been everybody's
Lovely.
been there.
It's lovely this time.
They
of
have
year.
a sign out front that says John Diner came here once in 1989. No, my sister lived in New London. Sorry. Anyway, side story.
Yeah. That's funny. Well, I remember we went to like look at a submarine. Like there was some submarine.
The USS Nautilus.
There it is.
It's
Yes.
true.
Been there.
What the hell?
Wow.
That's why I'm on the
same-
show, guys.
This
You
place
know.
is happening. I've never even heard of Groton.
It's a must see. You got to go. Your next vacation.
It was the first nuclear powered submarine.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's now like a museum basically that you can tour.
So we were seeing that, and I remember we were at a Days Inn, and late at night, ready for bed. I should be asleep, but I'm not. So my dad was going through the channels, and he stopped on the Dream Master, and we watched it in the hotel there, and that was the first time I saw it. And that was like 87, 88, 89 were peak Freddy years. I mean, he was like you guys, and we'll talk more about this, but he was everywhere. It was impossible to avoid him. So saw that there, and then I didn't see it again. I had gotten 1, 2, and 3 on VHS, and I didn't see the rest of them again till that awesome DVD box set came out in like 99, 2000. That was really fantastic box set, and that was where I kind of rediscovered Part 4.
Nice.
Wow.
So yeah, that's my
fr-
journey.
So from Groton to
To Forgotten.
forgot.
Yeah.
Wait, if EK's so
That's their
smart,
slogan of the city.
if you're so smart, what year in the 18th century was Groton incorporated as a town?
Ooh,
I'm gonna go with
deep cuts.
18.
18th century, so 1700s.
Oh, 17. Oh, I thought you said 1800s. 1778.
Oh, 1705.
I was
Not-
way off.
You're not a patriot.
I am not a true patriot at
They
all.
did not.
Yeah.
They did not have that plaque hanging near the submarine.
Yeah.
Apparently not. But
Yeah, I did not retain that fact. You know, I'm wondering, did anybody else rewatch this over the years? Because this is one I've never stopped watching Part 4. But I guess I watch really 1 through 4 pretty regularly. You know, maybe once every couple years I'll revisit the first 4. 5, 6, 7, maybe not so much. But I'm just curious because, you know, revisiting when you haven't seen it in a really long time has got to be a little jarring when all the jokes land as a kid, and then as a grown-ass adult it's like a little embarrassing. But when you grow up with knowing the jokes, maybe they're not as you don't notice the subtlety over it. You know what's coming and you accept it and move on.
For me, I mean, I haven't seen it in years. I haven't seen any of the sequels really in years, except for when we're covering them here. So it had been a while, but you know, I had watched them a number of times after that DVD set came out. And it was each time I really liked 4 the first time I saw it, and each time I've seen it since, I've kind of liked it less and less. And maybe that's exactly why what you were saying, that you know exactly what's coming, and you just start to, the more you watch it, I feel like you see kind of the weaknesses of the movie. And just for me, I'm such a fan of the first one that like I want more of the first one, and I get more annoyed that they went so far away from that as they went on.
Yeah.
And then they got totally lost. But
Yeah, for me, you know, when John got his box set, I think I borrowed it and I watched all of them at that point, and it was, but that's been maybe 20, 25 years ago.
Do we have to put a year on it? Do we have to?
Yeah.
That was 77 years ago.
Yeah.
Fair.
It was 1706. No.
1705.
Oh, sorry.
We
Damn,
were
guys.
we were
Back
in
in
the
Groton.
incorporated town of Groton.
Yeah.
No, that was a while ago. It was decades ago, guys. Decades ago. And so I hadn't really rewatched them again since, and until we go through them for the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's been kind of great. Like, as much as I know that I don't like the 5th and 6th one, like I kind of want to watch the sixth one now, you know.
It's fun.
But it's also because I know I don't like the 5th and 6th one, I also want to wait so I don't have to maybe watch it twice.
It's kind of interesting to pick apart, like really hammer down on what doesn't work on those ones. So we'll get to those. We'll get to those sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
But all right, so let's rewind. Let's go back to part 3 comes out and it is a huge hit. And what's the fallout of that? It's Freddy-Mania, right?
Oh, it's bonanza.
Freddy's everywhere.
Freddy Frenzy, man. That's what I'm calling it.
Yeah. I mean, he became a pop culture icon of the late 80s. I mean, he was all over MTV. He was TV appearances everywhere. Like just general public appearances everywhere. And he got his own show, Freddy's Nightmares, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When did he get the endorsement of Pepsi or Coke or whatever? When that's got to start around here too.
It's
right?
somewhere around here. Yeah. I can't remember if it's right before the 4th movie or right after, but definitely in this zone.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, I think it was right around this time, because at the same time, and I don't know. So I don't know if it was the same at like Six Flags, but in Houston, we had a theme park called Astroworld, and they had like a Halloween Havoc thing, and it was all sponsored by Pepsi.
Okay.
and their Halloween Havoc type thing. I don't think it was actually called that. I think it was called like maybe something Freddy's something or other. But like they did one October, it was all Freddy based. Like he was like running around the theme park. They had like performances and stuff where they would do like kind of like horror show type performances with Freddy as the centerpiece, and it was all Pepsi and all Freddy.
Well, like an Indiana Jones spectacular kind of.
Yeah. Except more like a traveling show type thing.
Yeah.
They didn't have any big, boulders or special effects things like
Fire
of
coming out.
that nature. No, like. Anyway, I'm just gonna refer back to the penis Freddy from Friday.
I'm going there.
Oh yeah, you're going there.
I'm headed right there.
We can't stop you guys.
Yeah, but none of that. But it was. I mean, he was like a thing for. I think it was for 2 consecutive years before Astroworld was purchased, I think, by Six Flags, and they kind of had a different deal going. But yeah, I remember. I mean, and that was right during this time frame.
Yeah.
I mean, it was everywhere. Like, it was crazy.
And it's so strange because, and I know there were like church groups speaking out against it at the time, that, this was a character that was a child murderer at minimum. Like, and it's implied it was a child molester or some kind of abuser on top of it, right?
Not a good dude.
In this one, they say dirty child murderer, which was an interesting choice of words, because that's why the remake got so much attention, was because they just leaned in hard on the other aspect of it. But this one, I did pick that little tone. They were kind of laying down the groundwork that maybe there was a lot more going on there. So
and back in the first one, I mean, they all but say it.
Yeah,
in
basically, it's very implied. Yeah,
and really the first 2. But so now you're taking that character and specifically marketing that character to kids. Am I right? Like it's kind of insane.
Like he's a hero now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of us owned a Freddy glove or the Freddy sweater and glove? I had it too. Yeah.
No doubt.
I still have the sweater. So.
You ran around?
Dude, the Freddy glove was like, for a time, my most prized possession. It was great.
Yeah.
I have a glove, sweater, and fedora still that I got for Halloween, and I just keep them in the closet.
Dude, it's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good times. You know, I
and
think.
we're at not like 99 degrees. You'd probably
Oh
be
yeah, I'd be
wearing
wearing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, he was becoming marketed to a younger audience, and you bring in the ace up your sleeve like the Fat Boys or something that we'll get to, and
Yeah.
it's a win-win. You know, now he's like the cool fun guy. You know, he's not just the scary killer, but he's the guy who you can party with in your dreams.
Yeah. He's been MTV'd.
Yeah, definitely MTV.
Well, and our generation was so, MTV was like for us, it was that was.
Well, they even
all
do
for-
product placement for MTV in this movie. You know,
Yeah,
I mean, it's
that's
like,
true.
it's
Oh
like,
yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point.
so
Oh, wait, I
it's-
missed that. I missed that, I guess.
When
No,
he's
when-
when he's with his waterbed and all that, and he's watching MTV.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
you know.
that's right.
Which a little trivia note, tying right back into the last time EK was on the show with Hard Ticket to Hawaii, which you can listen to in the archives, ReconCinemation.com. Do you know who the pinup girl was in that poster and inside the waterbed?
don't do it.
Who?
It's a Hope Marie Carlton, co-lead of Hard Ticket to Hawaii.
Oh, there you go. Still in the water. Still in the water.
Yep, still topless
awesome.
and still in the water.
Yeah. How's that for a wet dream?
Oh
Oh
zing.
my gosh.
Isn't that his line in the movie?
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like
Just
that, right?
borrowing his
Yeah.
lines now, his dad jokes.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how there was no penis monster in this movie. How did you take such a huge element of the third one and not bring it back here?
They blew the penis monster budget on the Roach Motel effect.
Yeah.
They
That's-
sure did blow it, didn't they?
Yeah.
So Freddy is huge right now, but what in 1988? Where are Jason? Where's Michael Myers? I don't think Leatherface is anywhere right now, but
I mean, they're clinging to life. Like
yeah,
they're
well, right?
88 had Halloween 4, right? Which was
the
not great.
return.
Yeah, I mean, it was the return coming off of that debacle of Halloween 3. Sorry. It's a little personal opinion thrown in there for you. And then Friday the 13th is coming off 7, which is
The New Blood.
New Blood.
Jesus.
And it's 1 year before Manhattan,
Right.
but I mean, if you were to ask people, Friday the 13th, 7 and 8 are definitely, hanging by a thread.
Well, I
Yeah,
think horror. Oh, go ahead, EK.
I was gonna say, and we're between Texas Chainsaw. You're between 2 and 3 right now, too.
Right.
So yeah, like
Yeah.
you said, just non-existent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and horror is in such a, we've talked about many 80s horror movies on the show. Horror became such a huge genre in the early 80s with Halloween being a hit and Friday the 13th being a hit, and then the slew of imitators that comes out. Nightmare on Elm Street, kind of as it's starting to die a little bit, Nightmare on Elm Street comes out and it gives such a shot in the arm to the genre that a whole different spin. What Wes Craven was able to do with that was take it in a whole different direction and really introduce the supernatural into it, and story-wise everywhere you can go. And by this point, there's been again 4 more years of just rinse and repeat and imitation after imitation, that the genre is again really dying, and Friday the 13th is struggling. I mean, they had the total box office for part 7 was 19 million, which was nothing compared to Nightmare on Elm Street 4's 49 million that it makes. So huge difference between the two. And Friday the 13th is starting to do gimmick after gimmick each movie to try to they're throwing everything against the wall to see what'll stick. Halloween, which has had that long gap between the last time we saw Michael Myers, it was a big deal that they were resurrecting him. Well, that's a later movie, but he's returning for the 4th movie. And that was also, it didn't take like they wanted it to, and was not the relaunch of that franchise that they were hoping for. So, and at the same time, those are going down, but this one is like totally, on fire.
Yeah, I would add, though, just to kind of play devil's advocate with those franchises, is that comparing Friday the 13th with Nightmare on Elm Street is like a string quartet to a symphony orchestra as far as budget goes, because what Friday needed to put into their film to get a return was a lot less. It was mainly a few good kills and a lot of nobody actors and, very limited location. So your overhead is pretty small, which means that, yeah, you might have only pulled in 19 million or something, but that profit is good enough to keep that franchise going. Whereas with Nightmare on Elm Street, you're going above and beyond with a special effects bonanza. So your budget's going to be exponentially higher, which means you need that profit to be higher. So it would be kind of interesting to see the breakdown, obviously not right now, but as far as like budget versus profit for both of those films, because I can't imagine Friday and Nightmare were operating on the same budgets at this point. They just didn't need to.
Well, and I think another thing to think about is that, for Friday and Halloween and Texas Chainsaw, like all the antagonists are silent, mask wearing killers, right? And those movies are about like their kills and like creative kills and like gruesome kills. And the MPAA right now is just like fleecing people, fleecing studios, and not allowing them to show any of that stuff. So what you have with Nightmare is an antagonist who you can inject personality into because he interacts and like he says quick quips and like he can narrate and dialogue while he's terrorizing these people, where maybe you're not able to do as gruesome of kill, but you can narrate and dialogue over it to add extra entertainment value to it. And I think that helped propel Nightmare during this time frame through that, right? Over what the other movies could do.
Yeah, it's no different than being like, there's a rock star for a reason, and there's a reason why instrumental artists aren't as popular. Is you can sing along with the rock star, you can sing along with the Beatles. That's Freddy Krueger. You can go on the playground, put on a glove, and do a little one-liner. Whereas if you're pretending to be Jason, it's pretty boring, So there's a reason why he took off, is that you could impersonate him. He could become a hero in a weird way, and so pretty brilliant, when you think about it.
And that's the spin with this one, is he's the quote unquote hero. He's the lead. He's the protagonist, really, that you make him the one that you're sort of rooting for, and you dumb down the teens that barely have characters or they have one note that they're playing, like Brooke Thies. She all we know about her as a person is that she hates bugs.
She does not like
bugs. She likes
to work out.
And she likes
to work
out.
out. Yeah. Two things. That's it.
Yeah.
Why on earth would we care about her?
Well, and I think for me in rewatching it, that's also why this one doesn't stand up for me as strong, like as much as now that I'm older as it did when I was younger watching it.
Yeah.
On rewatch, like I think the third movie is, because I feel like the third movie is still like a gateway to the Jason, or to the Freddy that we see here. But like I feel like the balance of like the character development of the teens and what we see going on with them, and kind of the quips from Freddy and stuff are really, they really help equal each other out and make for like an interesting and compelling kind of story, where this is so one-sided that unfortunately with age and changes in what you find funny and things like that, like it just doesn't stand up as much for me.
Yeah, totally. It's I agree with that completely. All right, let's talk about the how this movie in particular came to be. So 3 comes out, does very well. They immediately, New Line Cinema immediately wants to keep the train moving. So they approach Wes Craven to, continue his participation that he had kind of returned story-wise. He had returned for the 3rd film, and they gave him the opportunity to come up with a story for the 4th one. And he came up with, I don't think the script is out there, but apparently it was some kind of time travel story that they were like very quickly, no, thank you. Nope, not the direction we're going to go. Like, we want to take the way we're already pointing and go much further with it. So, so they parted ways with Wes, and we won't see him. He doesn't come back until the 7th film, which he takes over completely.
Yeah, New Nightmare is when he comes, and he comes back strong.
Yeah, I'm very excited to when we get to that one in
me too.
3 years.
We could speed it up. We could speed this whole thing up. We could just jump right to it.
Yeah. That's what I was saying at the beginning. Let's do a year of Shocktober. Let's just get into it.
Yeah. Enough small talk, guys. Let's get to part 6. Yeah, part 7. Let's go.
The funny thing is, at this point, Paramount, knowing that Jason is in trouble as a franchise, comes to New Line to make a deal to have the Freddy versus Jason crossover movie. Yes. And that was, David is in.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember that. Yeah. I remember that, like, all that discussion, when we were young, when this first came out. I remember all that discussion, like, really taking catching fire. And like, all my friends were talking about it, that it was, they wanted it to happen. Everyone like felt like it was going to happen, and then it didn't. But New Line knew that Freddy was much more valuable on the street than Jason was. So they turned the deal down, knowing that, like, we hold the cards right now because our guy is the hit, and you need us more than we need you. So Paramount was the much bigger studio, New Line much smaller at this point. So it was kind of risky for them to turn that deal down, but they did, and it wouldn't be for another 15 years before we'd get that movie. I mean, we get the tease of it in '93 with Jason Goes to Hell, but we don't see the full movie till much later on. So it's interesting that happens. But in the meantime, they're still developing it. A writer named William Kotzwinkle kind of came up with the Dream Master storyline, taking the idea from Dream Warriors and kind of continuing it. Brian Helgeland, who's a big-time screenwriter and director, comes in and does a rewrite on it that is, I think, pretty much what you see is most of what Helgeland contributed. And then we get another rewrite by Ken and Jim Wheat. So all 3 are credited as the writers. As far as directors, they actually made an offer to Tom McLaughlin, who directed Friday the 13th Part 6, which is, as we talked about, I think one of the more fun Friday the 13th movies, because Tom is really trying to make it almost like a satire of itself.
Well, yeah, and coming off the heels of 5.
Yeah.
It's great.
They had to try something different, and they tried, and that didn't work either, at the time at least. But Tom wants full creative control, and New Line won't give him that. It's their movie, and they just want someone who's going to make the version that they're really looking for. In the meantime, they had come up with some concepts and actually started shooting some visual effects elements without a script, without a director. They're just they're coming up with gimmicks that they like, and they're just getting them shot. So
isn't that where the pizza scene came from, though?
Yeah, I think
one of those is the pizza scene.
Yeah,
which holds up pretty well. It's pretty cool.
And that pizza was created by John Carl Buechler, who was the director of Friday the 13th Part 7.
Oh.
And he's a longtime special effects department head, and creator, and the only reason he didn't do the rest of the movie is because he was directing Friday the 13th. So, so in comes a young Finnish director by the name of Rennie Harlin, and apparently he only really got the job because they couldn't find a director, and he was literally hanging around the office to the point where he like annoyed Bob Shea, who was the head of New Line, to the point where he finally got in the room and got an interview, and he was kind of the only person left standing. So they're like, "Well, we got to start shooting, so you're the director." And
that's like a way to get a job.
Yeah,
it's like me annoying my dad, Bob, to see this movie.
Have you guys seen
Keep grinding?
Did you guys see his first film, No Prison? It's a really pretty cool film.
I have not, but I've always heard good things about it.
Yeah, it's got some cool effects. It's got a cool tone. So even though it seems like he just was right place, right time and unknown, I don't know. If you've seen Prison, I could see him handling this film. So I think it worked out for him, probably amazing. But yeah, he does tell those stories of just making himself present at the right times, obnoxiously. And they just finally wore down and said, "You got it. You're the one."
Yeah, he's like Neo. He's the one.
Yeah, just like Neo.
He's exactly like.
Rennie
Harlin is the Neo of the Nightmare on Elm Street.
Sounds about right.
But he's coming into a very problematic situation. There's famously the 1988 writer's strike, which is entirely different than the 2007 writer's strike, the current 2023 writer's strike that's going on as we record this.
What makes it different, John?
They were striking. There was
no AI.
Yeah, no AI. No AI on that one.
Yes. No bots.
No bots. But so he's talked a lot about how they really didn't know what they were shooting. Like, he had some concepts and he knew the story idea, but they didn't actually have a script. So they knew, like, all right, we're going to shoot. We have Alice's bedroom set is ready. So we need Alice and we'll figure it out in the morning.
Like,
winging it.
With such an expensive property too. That's wild.
It is. It's crazy that they didn't just wait. That's that balance of the studio wanting to keep, like I said, keep the train moving and get this movie back in theaters as quickly as possible. But would it have been better to wait, actually have a script or a full script, and make the story better? Would it have done as well or better, or would they have lost the momentum? It's hard to say. I don't think they would have lost momentum at that point.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was coming for the script, honestly, by part 4.
Right.
So it probably was a smart call for just keeping the franchise going.
Well, and that's coming back to why they leaned into the effects and the set pieces so much in this movie, is because they had to, because they didn't really have a lot of dialogue and a lot of story that they could connect the dots from the set pieces and make your story,
Yeah.
And a lot of the actors were, I think a lot of people kind of bash the actors in these movies, but it's hard for actors if they don't have a script. Like, they're basically just making up their dialogue and they're just going with it. It's we talked a lot about that in the Friday the 13th movies.
Well, and there again, we touched on it a little bit earlier. There's just no character development for any of them. Like, these characters are so thin and flimsy. Like, that's not their fault.
No,
definitely not their fault. Yeah, when you were given no script to work with, you just show up on set.
You kill off the 2 returning characters from 3 in your first scene, basically your first couple scenes or the first act. And it's like, those are the people that, like any returning audience members have a connection with because they recognize and understand their story some. And then you get rid of them quickly. You've got a new actress playing Kristen.
Yeah, Kristen. Yeah, Tuesday night replacing Patricia Arquette.
Yeah, and then you've got a bunch of actors that don't have any like real meat or dialogue to them, that gives them any heft. It's tough. So yeah, you've got to focus on the effects. I mean, because that's all you really have, right? And I mean, I imagine that's an artifact of the strike, right? Like they just didn't, like have people there that could help develop.
Yep. Yeah, it's look at Quantum of Solace. That's another movie that's similar to this, that you're going to shoot this movie no matter what, and you're going to feel the repercussion if you choose to shoot it without that finished script or without a script at all.
Right.
So
yeah, it is interesting to see how this was handled though by the actors. You could see maybe the more seasoned actors, because even though they didn't have a lot to work off of, some of them just fall so flat. Like they don't even know how to improvise in their scenes. Whereas somebody like Kincaid, like he doesn't have a lot of time on screen, but even within that, he's got a wider range of emotions and he's got a lot of personality, and you're already rooting for him. And the very short amount of time he's on screen, by his death, you're already kind of like bummed out about it. So you can tell he didn't have anything to work with too, but he just knew how to maybe find his character faster because he had already been in it.
Well, right. That's what I was going to say.
And that shows. It's kind of, it's interesting to see how he handled that. And it's probably one of the better characters in the whole film just because of that.
I think Joey's the same, like they're the kind of the two best performances. But I think to your point, like, I think that it's because they had the foundation of the third film to build off, so that even though the script might not be there, like the emotional arc of what limited time they had on screen, they could feed off where they came from in the third movie.
Yeah.
Whereas like these other actors, unfortunately, just didn't have that with them, But
even with completed scripts, I wouldn't say that, these movies were spending a lot of time with getting the performances well done and characters fully thought out. Like I didn't miss a beat. I didn't miss a beat here.
I feel like if you compare the third and fourth movie, you'd see a pretty big difference.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah, especially if you watch them close together, like you can, you can feel that difference. But I mean, they're going to lean in that direction. I think regardless if the script was ready, like that was the choice they made, was to, go effects heavy, because it continues with 5 and 6, which did not have the writer's strike problem.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but at that point, like they've also pivoted, right? Like now it's Freddy's movie. Like we're focusing on Freddy. We don't care about the other character development as much, because they're just really now pawns in our scheme to get Freddy to the next place to kill them, so that we can have the set piece and the comedy and the highlight on our hero, who's,
Yeah, no doubt that 4 wouldn't have resulted without the success of 3's over-the-top kills. When you have a marionette by veins and you have a person having their head shoved through the TV and stuff, like those were so over the top that there's no way that the executives didn't say, well, we could keep trying to build an actual story and script, but it seems as though the general audience is loving these over-the-top kills. Let's bring in the big guns and keep doing that and suffer the consequences otherwise, because that's where they were banking, that people wanted to see it. And honestly, it did. I mean, it got them to part 5. So,
well, yeah, I think at the time, absolutely. Like, I think I understand, why the movies went in the direction they did. I mean, Freddy was a star for sure, as we've talked about. I think for me, rewatching it now made me grow to appreciate 3 more, because I feel like individually, without the context of what was happening at the time and how popular Freddy was, like it as a movie has more staying power. Like like it stands alone better. Like I think the first and third movies are just more complete as movies in general than the others. And 2 for different reasons, but like, because 4 through the rest rely so heavily on the context of how famous Freddy is as a entity outside of the movies, and so like without that, like it for me didn't play as well. And I remember it, like I lived it, like I was obsessed with it. But like now being separated from it for as long as I have, like it was easier for me to step back and see kind of the pitfalls with that.
Mm-hmm.
It was really when Angelo Badalamenti didn't keep scoring. That was the downfall.
That was
Fair
the
enough.
beginning of the end.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
The soundtrack on this one is very interesting.
I actually love the soundtrack.
Yeah, Craig Saffin. I'm a big Craig Saffin fan.
The fact that the Fat Boys are on here at the end credits with the rap
I got
song
another
is-
show and tell for you guys.
Oh,
Howdy.
nice.
This is like a gem of mine. It's the actual cassette soundtrack of part
Dude.
4.
But there's so many
Wow.
songs. There's so many songs that are not on the
Not on it,
soundtrack.
yeah.
Well,
that
this
are-
isn't this is the score. This is not
Yeah.
the soundtrack. That's different.
Yeah.
This is Craig's piece.
Yep.
And he did Fade to Black. I'm sure we were going to get to it anyway, but Fade to Black's one of my favorite films and from the 1980, and so to see him attached to this too, that was pretty cool. That's between 3 and 4, the one thing they did right was they got some pretty cool composers. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
And he hit, I think at least once he hits that, the original cue
Yeah.
from the first movie, in the beginning of this when he hits it. I can't remember if he comes back to it at the end, but that was nice to hear that kind of call back to the first movie.
Yeah. I think, all things considered, I'm sure he was really kind of handcuffed with what he could do as a score because it's MTV generation right now, and they're going to cram as many songs on that soundtrack as possible. So for him to be able to still work in any kind of sense of an original score was a win, probably on his part, because
that's fair.
you got all these big names that they're trying to jam in there to make it popular with the kids.
I mean, you get Sinead O'Connor. What? Sinead O'Connor.
Blondie's on there. Yeah, there's all kinds of crazy names on there.
Yeah, Tuesday Night, one of our lead actors here singing.
That's a jam.
Yeah,
like that's
it
a
is.
good song. Billy Idol's on there. Like
Yeah.
there's a bunch.
I mean, you had Dawkins in the third movie, so that was they set the bar pretty high there.
Yeah.
So
They dug their own grave.
Well, what's interesting is they flooded the movie with all this music, but like the soundtrack that you could get only has, I mean, it's like half.
yeah,
Like it was not a complete soundtrack.
no, most of the songs that we just talked about are not on the soundtrack.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the story for a minute. So the movie starts with reintroducing our surviving characters from the third movie, which, as we're seeing, is kind of a trend in a lot of these 80s horror sequels. David, you being like the first time you're seeing this, how did it sit with you? What happens to those characters? And I'm talking about Kristen and Joey and Kincaid specifically.
I was kind of bummed for what happened, but it took 40 minutes for Kristen to be taken out. So she had a whole arc for that whole first act. But I was like, I would have loved to continue to see them be part of it, and then just adding to the cast, and let maybe it isn't like, okay, we got to take out the whole previous cast as usual. Like maybe one of them would continue to survive, things like that. So, but it was nice to see those two back, and like knowing like these three characters, could have been the Dream Warriors on and on and on.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, this is the one thing I hate about these movies is like, I don't know, they have to kill the previous generation. I mean, but I guess is better when they just ignore the previous like final girl or whatever, and you just
I'd rather have that. I'd rather have just ignore the previous movie than just it's like we talked about when we looked at Alien 3. You spend a whole movie building these characters up and making them legitimate, and you're in love with those characters by the end of the movie, and the first thing you do in the next movie is kill them off. Like it completely cuts the legs out of those characters. And how can they defended them, so they figured out how to beat Freddy in the third movie, and here they are just immediately taken out. And it just doesn't, It's always bugged me about this one that
It's because it's not about the characters, it's about Freddy. And if you don't let him kill off the characters, he doesn't stay scary. He doesn't stay, a question mark, So if you were to just let these characters keep defeating him or get by with a pass and he's like, I almost got you, then he wouldn't stay unpredictable. That's because the star of the show is Freddy, which means sucks that you like that character, but guess what? Freddy's going to kill him regardless because that's what Freddy does. So, I mean, it's kind of like they set that up to have to kill their characters off. Otherwise, he loses his potency.
Do you think it would have been any different if Patricia Arquette had come back to the Kristen character? Or do you think they still would have handled it the same way?
I don't think, well, first of all, she was not going to come back. I mean, she was very worried about getting the horror stigma stuck on her as she's building her career. So there was no way she was coming back. And if she did, I think that would have been, I think she would have lived at least. Maybe they would have killed off Joey and Kincaid still, but I think you would have seen her still as the lead. I don't think she would have let herself get killed off early in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's hard to say.
She was kind of a big deal in '88 at that point, right? Like, yeah,
she capitalized right away on Dream Warriors. So, and she's been a huge star and an incredible actress ever since. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know. So I always had a hard time with that, but you're right, EK. Like, this is the first movie that Robert Englund is top billing.
Mm-hmm.
So it really is transition to his movie. And if it's going to be his movie, you've got to make him as strong as possible. But was there, maybe I missed it. How does Freddy actually come back? He's just sort of
dog fire urine.
The dog pee. Yeah.
Coolest.
The dog named Jason.
Named Jason.
Right.
I love this whole sequence. And
it's great.
It's so well done. It's got a Hellraiser vibe to it, with the reanimation. It's gooey and it's creepy, and there's moments you can tell this film is so lopsided because it starts pretty dark, like not only visually, but just the tone. And when he does come to life, it's a pretty creepy scene. And then when he first shakes off his hat and puts it on and he's walking around the junkyard, that's like part 2 type of Freddy. Like, it's dark and creepy. I mean, he totally takes a twist, right after that. But that whole opening sequence of him coming back to life is pretty iconic in my mind. Like, it's awesome.
Oh yeah.
I think there's a couple spots in this movie that, like, the sequences hold up as some of the best in the entire franchise. That's one of them. I think the whole sequence from basically when they're eating the soul pizza to when Alice crashes the truck into the faux Freddy / tree, like that whole sequence, I think is really freaking awesome because that includes like the time loop.
The time loop is great. Time loop's out of like the first movie. That's like a Wes Craven.
Yeah. It includes the cockroach, like the Roach Motel, like all that is in that little, like that chunk. And I think it's freaking phenomenal, man. After rewatching it, like, I'm just like really impressed because I think that holds up, that and the reanimation, both of those scenes just hold up with anything else that we would have seen in any of the other movies, you know?
Yeah.
But do they actually explain how Freddy's coming back? Because when it starts, it's just they're just being pulled into their dreams somehow by like a weak version of Freddy, and then the dog pees on the bones. And
if you're pissed on from dog fire, any demon's gonna come back.
I think it's that he's gaining power by her pulling Joey and Kincaid in, because it's really he's coming in through her dream slowly, and she panics and calls in for support. And I think the second now that you're giving him the power of 3 people having a nightmare, he can now start to reform. I think that's kind of what I always gathered is, yes, I'm being very generous with my interpretation, but it does seem like he needed maybe a few people on board, like Santa Claus for the sleigh to go in the air. He needed a few more people on his side. And once all 3 of the original cast were like, oh man, he is coming back, now he can fully form.
So Kristen just fucks over everybody.
Absolutely. And he knows it. That's what Kincaid says. He's like, leave me alone. That's your problem, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she go ahead, David.
Well, so it's like if she died at some point before this happened, her power wouldn't be with anybody. It's like her power is the thing that brings him back, right? Like it's her fault. And then she kept doing it, and then brings in the boys, and technically brings in the dog because the dog bites her in the dream, and then wakes up with blood in his mouth.
And she brings in Alice. Like she screws everybody.
That was it. That's the thing. If she decided to die with Freddy, she could have, but she brought in Alice and then gave her power.
And forces her power through some kind of light blast.
Through Freddy?
Through Freddy and into Alice. Like, I didn't know that was a thing that you could pass your
power.
And is that the thing that triggers Alice's ability to pull everybody else's power at that point?
Yeah, I
like
think
when he kills them, like she's able to basically ingest their powers because of whatever happened in that scene. Okay.
Yeah. She's like the Voltron of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
Outside in the parking lot every morning here at Recon Cinema Studios, David and I have a catch with our powers.
Nice. Way. You juggle them.
Yep. We have our power gloves and we toss them back and forth.
Absolutely.
So how do we feel about Tuesday Night as the Patricia Arquette replacement? Passable for you guys, or was it? Because I don't know. Maybe just because I love Patricia Arquette and I've seen her so many times that to me that was like I could feel the loss of that actress.
Yeah, I think Patricia Arquette's a better actress, but I think that Tuesday Night does a fine job with the character in this movie.
Yeah,
she's fine. And she gave us our opening track, so
points for that. Yeah,
that's her key contribution.
Yeah,
and I think I don't know. There's rumors that there was a relationship between Rennie Harlan and Tuesday Night, and maybe Tuesday was not the most popular person on set because of that.
I read that too.
Yeah.
Haters gonna hate.
Yeah, I wasn't there. I can't vouch for it. I was only 9 at the time, so
it's not an excuse. There's definitely 9-year-olds in this movie.
Right. I was a reporter outside the set with my
with your own fedora with a little press card in
my notepad, pencil.
But it was your dad's hat and jacket, so it was really big. You look like a little rascal out there.
You look like someone from the cast of Bugsy.
Yeah.
All right, and then we get our new characters, our new actors here. Lisa Wilcox, who plays Alice. I think she did, watching it this time, in the beginning of the movie when we first see Alice and she's so timid and reserved and, really, I think no makeup at all on, which is fine. But I was like, what is going on with this character? Like, it's over the top kind of weak that, like, I get it. I get that you're playing weak. But then by the end, I think it all worked that when she becomes like the empowered version of Alice,
right,
the super powered, it all kind of ties in. It made sense.
Yeah, I mean, you cut some bangs and you put on a spike wristband. You get your bug machine and you're good to go, man. It's a party time.
Your bug zapper.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where did that come from? I may have missed that too.
That was from Lisa.
Yeah, that came from
Sheila. Yeah. I think
Sheila. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
The smart one who has asthma.
The asthma.
Yeah, I actually like Alice's arc because there's nobody else that really gets anything like that.
Yeah, she's the only one.
Yeah, and she does do a good job of being very meek and quiet and innocent and kind of naive. And then by the end, it's like she's fed up because literally everybody has been killed. So she's got nothing to lose. That's kind of a fun little thing. And I think as a kid watching this, I actually was drawn to that. I liked the idea of being able to like absorb your friends' powers and maybe take on some of their qualities that you didn't have confidence in yourself. And now all of a sudden it's like, well, I got this friend who's really cool at Kung Fu, so I want to learn Kung Fu. And it's a very basic idea, but at the same time, if this is being marketed more towards a younger audience, you know, this has got a good formula that works for younger viewers. Is you know, believe in yourself and surround yourself with cool friends, and even if they're brutally killed, maybe you learn something from them.
Yeah, it definitely checks a box, that whole like idea, you know, as a kid, for sure.
Some of the other actors that we see here too, Andrus Jones, who plays Rick, who I'm a big fan of for two reasons. The other two places I've seen him, number one was Good Morning Miss Bliss, which is the season 1 of Saved by the Bell. He's got a big episode in there, but and he is also in a video game, a famous video game called Night Trap, which I'm a huge fan of. That was the Sega CD game that came out on Sega CD in 92. They actually filmed all the footage in like 87, 88. And it was going to be a movie, but then it became a video game, and was the one that was like that, along with Mortal Kombat, was banned, and there was the, you know, court cases over violence in video games, and we talked about that in our Mortal Kombat episode, also with EK. So Andrus Jones was in Night Trap, and I just played that game recently, and I still love it. I mean, it's cheesy as hell, but it's a very fun game.
There was
I ever played that one.
At the end of the poll that was given on what our fans outside the, you know, Friday, what nightmare they liked best. You know, they asked what they thought of the Mortal Kombat episode we did. They said flawless victory.
Flawless victory. Nice.
Oh my God damn it.
I love these fans. We gotta have them. We gotta pull
very
them
supportive.
more often.
Yeah, they really do like the show.
All right, so Andrus Jones is Rick. We get Brooke Thies, who was most of us would know from Just the 10 of Us, also co-starring Heather Langenkamp, who played Nancy in 1 and 3 and 7.
I can't believe there was 2 of the 10 were in Nightmare movies.
Yeah.
Do you think they talked about it on the set? They were like, "Oh, you were in Nightmare. I was in Nightmare. Let's be Nightmare buddies."
Yes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Well, I think
Sure
Just
that
the
happened.
10 of Us is a dream from their characters in Nightmare.
It's just the 10 of us are going to be killed by Freddy.
That's the full title. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dan Hassel as Dan, and Toy Newkirk as the asthma-riddled Sheila.
Poor Sheila.
Poor Sheila. My God.
Poor Sheila, tiny asthmatic nerd, just gets it. Just like, fuck you. Like,
Yeah.
You invented this
It's
device
rough.
that'll kill Freddy. Somehow taking this like this mechanical device into a dream can kill Freddy. So I mean, at least that's there. But boy, like, she just got a little bit of sympathy from Brooke Thies' character, and then like is sexually assaulted and murdered in
Yes.
a dream.
Yeah.
there's so many things in this movie that stood out to me this time, that like normally the tradition in horror movies, right, is like the teens do drugs, they have sex, they do, you know, the Scream rules that get laid out that are going to guarantee you're going to be murdered for doing those things. These kids don't do any of those things. They're generally good people. They seem like, you know, like they're not doing anything wrong, and they get fucked. Like they get
Yeah.
Because they got pulled
Freddy-
into a damn dream, you know?
Freddy
It wasn't
does
even their
get-
fault.
Yeah, he gives no shits. He's like, I don't care, good, bad, indifferent. I'm taking your soul.
It's brutal. Like, and I think, you know, kudos to the actors for selling their deaths so well. But like when Sheila dies, like that's kind of just heartbreaking. That's just sad.
Yeah.
Like
It's
the
such a good kill, too.
It is.
So
It is a
cool.
great
It is
kill.
good.
yeah.
Yeah, I gotta suck face. You know, it's like, it's crazy. It stands out. It's so well done, you know.
It does. It's just, it was,
Yeah.
it just, I don't want to say it bothered me, but it just stood out to me this time that like, God, these kids like actually they don't really deserve any of this at all.
No, and she's such a great character. I really like her a lot. She was one of my favorites in this. Even when I was a kid, I just thought she was fun because she wasn't trying so hard. She just kind of was getting through high school like everybody else. And yeah, I found her death, the very first time I saw it all the way until every time I see it, it's kind of pretty brutal, honestly. And Freddy just does not care. Like there's no rhyme or reason. Everybody's fair game. And that does keep him, even though he's being cheesier and cheesier, still does keep him unpredictably creepy because he'll do anything. He's not giving anybody an out at all.
Yeah. And obviously Debbie's death, which is set up with the bug, the fear of bugs earlier in the movie, that, I mean, and her workout obsession, that like the bending the arms back and
amazing,
brutal.
Is this Screaming Mad George? Did he do that whole sequence? Because I know he was involved, and I feel like this was his. It's got his signature on it, in my opinion. So I just didn't know if this was what he actually did or not. But I felt
I think other than the pizza scene, most of that is Screaming Mad George.
Yeah, and I think Steve Johnson
did the whole ending.
Yeah.
It's kind of with the arms.
Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Yeah.
And so Debbie, is turned into a fly. Like, she's caught in like the fly trap, right? And the goo from the fly trap,
like a roach trap.
A roach trap, not fly trap. Roach trap. The goo from that turns her into.
Well, it tears her skin.
Pulls her
off,
face
and
off.
underneath her skin, she is a giant, disgusting creature cockroach.
Awesome!
It's so great.
Yeah,
it's
great
so
concept.
good.
Like, she rips her own face off to become a bug. I mean, that's
It's like The Fly, It's got that vibe, that Cronenberg vibe, So it's awesome.
Yeah, it's really great. I mean, again, like I said, like this part and the bookends to this are, I think, some of the greatest.
Yeah.
And
go ahead, David.
Well, and it's interesting because, at least these deaths make sense in context for what little they've established for the character. So she doesn't like bugs and she likes to be tough, and then she's turned into bug, and then it's crushed easily, and then
with a lot of goo coming,
a lot of goo, so much goo. Sheila can't breathe; she's asthmatic, and then of course it gets the air sucked out of her. And it was like even Joey or whatever, like, dreams about hot girls and then is just drowned in his waterbed. That's kind of related, but Kincaid just gets screwed. Like, he just he gets stabbed. Like he has a fight with him. It's a pretty good fight, more or less, I guess. I don't know. And then he just stabs, and then he just has a heart attack and dies in real life. And it's like, Kincaid gets the short shrift on this.
I think that death is supposed to be more emotional than kind of the others, because I think Kincaid from the third movie is like sentimentally a kind of he's the heart a little bit, right? And so when you see him die here, like, you don't over embellish it, but you prove a pretty serious point when he goes that way.
Awesome, because he looks up and he yells, "Freddy's back," and then it does this incredible miniature pullback. That set piece, because you know how I am. I'm like, I die hard about miniatures, but if you've seen the makings of and stuff, like,
it's great.
What a brilliant little piece right there. And that was completely unnecessary. Like, they did not have to do that shot.
No.
Yeah.
The fact that they did it was so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, is there like a little doc on that set, on that piece?
It's
they talk about the making of it and stuff.
Yeah,
I'll have to see if I can find that. That looks cool.
I mean, I remember that from the MTV. I think it was an MTV thing. I'm
pretty sure it was.
Sure, but I remember them talking about that during that special effects special.
Yeah, they released a whole VHS separate of Part 4 that was the making of Part 4.
Oh wow!
With
Elm Street, The Nightmares, or something like that, and it's a separate tape that was just the making and special effects and behind the scenes. And it's really cool to see because they are at their height and they're surrounding themselves with, at the time, by 87, 88, the best talent available, minus Tom Savini or something, but
Mhm.
most of them are understudies of him anyway. So
Right.
you're getting like the best of the best for special effects and miniature designs and all that. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is a visually impressive movie. Like focusing on Freddy's look and giving him the kills that work. I mean, it's like there's a lot of that time and effort. And like this is a 90-minute movie. It's like it's all the others. It's quick and all of that, but yeah, it's the sacrifice of the characters definitely gave way to like really impressive visuals, and really just the entry into the mainstream of this movie is just so well done, to make him pop culturally attractive to more people.
Yeah.
Just shines through like every decision on this, which is wild because it's more marketing and like I don't know it's like focus grouping it to death almost, like to the stuff that works.
Yeah. Speaking of the deaths, one of the ones that I found lackluster and disappointing though was Rick's death, who I also think is a really cool character who like you root for. He's like a nice guy. He cares. He's supportive. And
the most visually impressive thing in the movie is the ninja workout scene.
Yeah.
100%, right? I mean, I can't believe we haven't talked about it more, but it is kind of it feels like a kind of throwaway death for that character and I guess, back to the point that Freddy is the star, he's not even in it. So that's maybe that's why
there is a reason. So they started to go overboard and over budget on the effect sequences.
Mm-hmm.
And they went so far over on the Debbie bug death scene that they had to cut something, and what they cut was Rick's death, because it was supposed to be, I believe it was supposed to be like some kind of elevator sequence that he's stuck in an elevator and Freddy's messing with him, and they didn't have the money for
that
it.
way. He's in the elevator, they just don't finish it that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So they kind of came up with something quick and easy that Robert Englund's not even in it.
Yeah. What I read is that they blew basically the entire special effects budget on the Roach Motel effect.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, look who you're bringing in to do it. That's why you're bringing in the big guns. You're going to have to pay for them. And, but I will say about his character being a kid, being a young kid and seeing him, I was aware that he was kind of the Christian Slater, version, which we're going to see a lot of those come up and around these years. But I 100% put a headband on, and worked out because I thought that that's what you're supposed to do. He looked cool doing it. I'm going to do it. So
right there with you.
Did you listen to anything?
Yeah. That's a jam too.
Yeah.
But,
great song.
he did a good job, and he did what he could. And I feel bad that honestly, of the characters, I felt like he did a good job with his character, and to have to go out with swinging at the air, and having a pretend fight, it kind of sucks, because in my opinion, he deserved a little bit better, because he did a good job acting in that whole film.
I remember just like the first time I watched it, expecting him to be there till the end. Guys like
with his sister, like tag team.
Yeah.
But she represents. She's got that headband, and I think she's got it on her wrist.
She's all nunchucked out.
Yeah. So the relationship here is Kristen from the third film is dating Rick, who is a sibling to Alice, who takes the handoff as our new hero character.
Yeah.
And she's in love with this jock named Dan, who that's pretty much his character. He's a jock named Dan.
He's just a jock. Yeah.
he is. But what oh, go ahead, David. Sorry.
And like all of the teens are likable. None of them is like kind of like the villain of the group. Like none of them's like kind of like kind of gross, which is a little weird, right? Shouldn't we have like kind of a gross character? But I mean,
Yeah, like even the jock is a nice guy. Like,
Yeah, totally. He doesn't give anybody a wedgie.
Yeah,
No.
he's not a bully. Alice likes him, and he like pretty much goes for her right away. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And he
Like-
believes her. He like joins in with her quickly to on the whole escapade. But
So it's sort of a nice change of formula, I think. I mean, there's the only mean teen is like a random bullying thing that, you know, and Brooke Thies like tells him off, and then that's it. Like that kid, you'd almost expect that guy to die somewhere, but he's not connected to the story, so it doesn't matter. But but there's no, everyone's just like a likable group. Like we're all friends. Like this is we're fun, you know, fun teens.
that reminds me of something I caught that just really cracked me up watching this. So in the scene where I think it's where we meet Debbie and Sheila, like outside the school in the parking lot when Debbie has that moment with the bug and everything.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch that scene, there's the same extra is on both sides of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's this blonde guy with sunglasses with a blue plaid shirt that he's like, 10 feet in front of them, but also about 20 feet behind them on like a bike. Once I rewound it like 5 times. I'm like, oh yeah, that's the same. Whoever was running the background that on that scene was
they should be fired.
They had a problem. So
I'm looking up for the second AD right now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to be your connection. That's going to be your 6 degrees.
Exactly.
Oh shit, he was on Dreams.
I think they were twins.
I got Dreamscape figured out about a half hour ago. So
I think those 2 characters were twins, though. I think that they just wore the same outfit.
Maybe, yeah.
That's my mind canon for it.
Okay. All right,
I can't prove it, but
there's no way
it.
they would have messed up that bad.
Yeah, they had the budget to hire twins. So.
Yeah,
and they didn't use them in the same shot. It was just a reckless kind of.
So do we believe Alice being our new lead? Do we believe in the world of this story, her journey, that she's taking over and she's become this kick-ass, character who's basically takes out Freddy?
Yes,
I mean, with the absorption of the powers of her friends. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm
she
in.
sells it. She's a badass by the end. I think, and I believe it.
Yeah, the gearing up scene. I'm all about the gearing up scene.
Oh yeah,
Rambo Commando,
shit.
Cobra.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
There's never a wrong time for a gearing up montage.
Yeah. If you do that in a movie, you've pretty much got me, regardless of what else happens.
Yeah, I'm in.
Totally.
I didn't know if that's what we were getting, but like when she first got, because again, I've never seen it before, right? So the first time I'm watching it, and it's like, I forget what the very first shot is, but the second shot is her just buttoning up her, her blouse a little bit. And I'm like, wait, are they getting her? Is she going to be Rambo? And then it's like she had like her suede leather shoes and she's tying them. Yeah. And I'm like, so it's like
spike bracelet on her.
And then the spike bracelet and the jacket. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I definitely like that. There's a lot of stuff here that doesn't seem like winking or tongue in cheek. Like I like the quality, I think, of everyone involved in this. Like it doesn't seem like it was rushed. I feel like maybe the actors even got rehearsal time, even if because they had no script, so they had to sort of figure it out together. But so that at least they seem more comfortable. Like everything about this screams like competent or above performances throughout. Like things are like expertly shot, like and it seemed to be thought out. Like it doesn't seem like sort of haphazard and run and gun like a smaller budgeted version of this. Like again, the prosthetics, the lighting, everything's a show. For a guy like me, this works, right? It's no surprise that okay, I'm glomming onto this because I do like the shiny things, right? I like big and loud and clean and all that. So it's a like okay, this is where I'm on board now, and I'm still like I cannot get over it as we keep touching on all these points. I'm like, yeah, this is just higher quality version of everything we've been seeing. It's everything's sweetened. Everything seems better, quality wise from top to bottom. So and then we haven't even talked about Freddy's death, which
I think we're there.
Are we there?
Let me interject real quick, if you don't mind, on that Rambo scene, because there is something that I think deserves a little bit of credit. Is I know it's really on the nose, but what I like is the whole pictures on the mirror. And when the film first starts, she's really meek and she's really insecure. And her brother says, kind of is again, it's defeating the purpose of having a mirror if you're going to cover everything. And she says, well, whatever, and shrugs it off. And by the end, it's very cliche, but she's pulling all the pictures off the mirror and revealing herself in the mirror. And she's looking at herself and she's being empowered. And yes, of course, that's like not a deep thought, but at the same time, I think it's really cool and it's really relatable. And why this sticks out is at this time, I had two older sisters, and one of my sisters, who was pretty insecure growing up, had photos all over the mirror, kind of covering as much as possible. So this was kind of rooted in a trend of the time and really was believable that her character arc was changing. And we were seeing it in real time as she's like putting on spikes. She's removing parts of the mirror, covering what she could see. And I don't know, for me, that could have been a throwaway or not even being noticed. But I think kudos to not having a script and still pulling off a little bit of depth in that scene beyond the fun Rambo arming up. There's more happening in that scene. And I think they pulled it off really well and sincere. I don't think it was cheesy. I don't think it was dummied down. I just think it was her really becoming the character ready to fight Freddy. It was cool.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it seems like stuff, like a lot of this stuff could be really cheesy, but somehow it's however it's done this way. Again, it's a higher quality version of it. You can just sort of buy into it. I think you keep buying into a lot of the emotion. Like, that's the thing about having all likable characters being like putting up with conflict. Like, the parents aren't quite so evil, but they're just enough. Like,
they're pretty. I mean, Alice's and Rick's dad are, he's an alcoholic here. We will see that character again, but
shout out to Brooke Bundy, who plays Kristen's mom in both 3 and 4.
Who ends up another sad thing that she basically ended up killing Kristen by driving.
Is she the one that drives by and is like, Andale?
Yeah.
But I love that scene. That cracks me up.
She's so good at that over the top, because she does it in the third movie too. That it's really a lot. She's great.
Real quick before we get into deeper things, something I noticed this time around that I hadn't noticed before is the name of the diner is called the Crave Inn. I don't know if you guys
very cute.
I didn't actually pick them up. That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's what I don't understand is the N is INN, as if like it's like a place you could stay as well, not just eat, but you could rent a room. And I'm like, there's no rooms here. Like, why did they decide to go that deep with that?
They couldn't afford that part of the set.
Guess not.
Because once you go in, you're in a time loop and you can't get out.
Exactly.
That's true.
There you go.
Maybe that's it.
That time loop. Let's just talk about that one more time. Like that.
It's cool, isn't it?
It's really cool.
Really cool. Yeah.
I'm telling you, that scene for that little sequence right there is freaking pretty rad. Like,
and that's like going back to the original version of Freddy and how the psychological games that he would play. Like, that's something that does feel very dreamlike.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I've
had that dream. Absolutely.
We all have.
And he's just messing with him. It's great.
Yeah.
Now, like you run up to the car, you get in the car, you drive, then you run out and you run right back in the same spot again. Like, it was really cool. And the other kills, even when people are dreaming, it doesn't have that dreamlike feel, or it just doesn't, that sense isn't there. Whereas that one sequence, that nails it. All right. So Freddy's death and the mechanics of it, I got a little lost on the mechanics of it, but who could walk through that whole sequence?
Oh,
I think
man.
the flimsiest part of it is the if he sees himself, they can get him thing. Like that,
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know that you need that. Just blast
So-
him with the bug zapper, have that do a thing. Like,
So
I
is
don't
it
understand
like
that part of
she
it.
recites the poem, the Dream Master poem that she always heard as a kid, and if she gets him to look in the mirror at himself, then that'll take care of him?
Yeah, none of it matters. All that's cool is that he's got arms popping out of his
Yeah,
head.
That's the cool
Because
part.
that shit
That's
is
the cool
awesome.
part. That's all that matters.
Yeah, that
The
was
soul.
really
Yes.
amazing.
And
But,
the
like,
soul,
shout
like
out-
even the
Shout
Oh,
out
go
to
ahead.
Steve Johnson, man. That is his bread and butter right there. You know, if you don't know, I mean, obviously he became a huge name, but this was his break. This was his, he did Night of the Demons was really where she showed what he could do. It's also where he met Linnea Quigley. They got married, and she's the one that's pushing her boobs through the Freddy.
the
That's the little cameo right
Yep.
there. That's his wife. But and she's,
Jeez.
She's a
classic
legend.
Scream. She's the Scream Queen. And but he really stepped up on this whole scene, and it's so much fun to watch. Like, it never gets old when you watch this death. You can shake your head and laugh at the ridiculousness of the poem and the mirror and all that,
Sure.
but man, when those little arms are coming out and stuff, it's so weird, it's so surreal, and it's so dreamlike. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Unforgettable for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, it's executed so well too. And I mean, I remember, again, just going back to that documentary about the special effects. Like, I remember that part when they're talking about this and talking about like the latex torso that they're having all the people press their bodies into and all that. Like, this is one of those parts of this movie that really stick out to me as well. It's great.
Yeah, the whole team, there's just so many people involved in this that went on to do big things too.
Mhm.
Like, you can tell this is where all the talent, one of the names that I came across, which I had no clue. Adam Jones was on this as an effects artist too. And Adam Jones would become world famous for being the guitarist of the band Tool. But
Oh my
he
God.
got his start
Oh.
as an effects artist. He was on Terminator 2. He did a bunch of stuff, and I think Escape from LA. And then, he obviously went on to much bigger and better things with being a rock star, but he was involved in this, and it's just fun to see, like, all these guys. Steve Johnson did Big Trouble in Little China also. Like, they're just what a fun group, and I feel like it comes through in that whole scene. You can tell they are like, you're going to give us this budget, we're going to give you total crazy. And imagine being on set and seeing that in real time. It must have been the wackiest, wildest thing that you could have seen at that time.
Yeah, they're like, fuck it. Who needs a script? This shit is awesome.
Yeah, this is wild. This is like crazy. And it's like Clive Barker before Clive Barker. It's crazy.
Yeah.
That Adam Jones thing is pretty cool. I didn't realize that. And, now it brings into context that claymation stuff that Tool.
Yeah, that's where he got his
used
start.
to do.
He used to do special effects on movies, and then kind of walked away from Hollywood to become a rock star. But that's why he did all their videos early on. But yeah, he was involved too. I was like, man, everybody had a hand in this. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So the souls are pulling Freddy to hell, right?
They're tearing him
are they?
apart.
Yeah.
They're pulling him apart.
Yeah. And
So
all right,
because they're
great,
like
sure.
trapped. They're trapped in him.
They're trapped. They're
Yes.
trying to break free and tear him apart.
Oh,
And-
Tear apart.
And it's
And
great.
they sure do.
When they
the
tear his
exit, the exit cracks me up. Them like drifting through the skylight or whatever. Man,
Oh yeah.
so funny.
Oh,
But it's also like, whatever, we're all hugging and we're all going to celebrate and high five.
Yeah.
So why not let the souls escape too?
And there's no tease at the end.
Yeah.
There's like, it's just a straight ending that it's like, we got our happy ending and Freddy's dead.
Well, I mean, the ending implies that she's got some serious psychological issues now and needs to get therapy because she throws the coin in and sees his reflection. So she's got some PTSD now, but otherwise
Natural.
yeah, nobody turns around. It's not like Freddy riding a bike with the outfit on of the twins. So we're good.
Yeah.
I actually watched all the credits anyway. Like I watched the credits anyway, but then I'm like, oh, maybe there's a scene at the end. And I'm like, wait, they didn't do after credits scenes.
Yeah, they didn't do that.
Very
I was
rarely.
hoping for it.
No, but you get a banger of a song with Sinead O'Connor doing
Yeah.
hands. That's
Which
such a
and
good
that song was super expensive for them. So and Bob Shea fought against it and finally relented. But you know, that's why I think they use it twice in the movie because like,
it's
if we're
great.
paying for it, we're going to use it. You know?
Great song.
Yeah. Because she was already, you know, skyrocketing at the time that this is getting made. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, cool. Well, I think maybe it's time now we should talk about how it did at the box office with Box Office Glory.
Dun, 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 dun.
That's the new song.
That is.
Was that a trumpet?
I've seen a couple of different numbers actually for the budget of this movie. I always heard it was 6.5, but then I read elsewhere that it had blew up to 13. That's that's like double. So I don't know.
More believable, to be honest.
Yeah, that's probably true. So, all right, somewhere between 6.5 and 13 million. It is released August 19th, 1988, going up against Married to the Mob.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, boy.
Haven't thought about that movie ever.
Until right now.
Nobody has.
And it opened up at number 1.
Hey.
Yeah. Woohoo. Right ahead of Young Guns in week number 2 and Die Hard, which was in its 6th week. It has a $12.8 million opening weekend. That's pretty good. And then a $49 million domestic run. It was
Die Hard, huh? So wait, so Rennie, did he jump on to part 2?
Yeah, he did Die Hard too. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
Boy.
I think that's the next movie he does after this, and then he does Ford Fairlane.
Dang. Win-win, buddy. Okay, anyway, sorry. I just was putting that together.
The Die Hard connection.
Yeah, right. 6 degrees of Die Hard.
Nightmare on Elm Street 4 was number 19 of 1988, box office wise, right between Oliver and Company and The Land Before Time, which honestly, guys, that's the perfect way to watch these movies. You know, that's the perfect triumvirate.
Perfect Before Time's good, man. It's a good film.
Yeah.
It is.
Let's see. And Rain Man, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Coming to America were the top 3 of 1988. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, is box office wise is the number 3 ranking film in the Nightmare franchise, if you include the remake. So the going in order, remake made the most money in 2010, I think, and then Freddy versus I mean that was
it made the most money, or it had the biggest box office.
Biggest box office. Sorry, yes.
Yeah,
that's not a comparison to the budget, but just box office. So yeah. Then Freddy versus Jason, and then Nightmare on Elm Street 4, followed by the third film. So,
interesting.
Believe it or
Man,
not, New
7
Nightmare
is
all the way at the bottom.
7's the last on that list.
Yeah.
Wow, man, people did not respond well to that movie. I guess.
They weren't ready for it, man. They
weren't. They didn't.
They had to get Scream first, and then they could go back and revisit and go, "Oh, damn."
Yep.
I mean, I'm not
already doing this, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's true. I even remember when I saw it, I was like, I don't really get it, but man,
he was ahead of his time. Yeah,
with time,
definitely.
it's really aged well.
Yeah. So this movie does very, very well. A big hit on their hands, just completely, mission accomplished. That they are capitalizing on everything Freddy, and it's all working. He's going to continue another year's worth of publicity and appearances, and Freddy's Nightmares, I think, went 2 seasons. So, and we didn't really talk about him, believe it or not, but Robert Englund is his usual fantastic self as Freddy. I mean, he was born to play that character.
I mean, we talk about he's great.
Funny. He's like in the making of in full Freddy makeup. but really intellectual about having a conversation about Wes Craven and his impressions of him and blah, blah, blah. But, and, you know, he's got the whole demeanor, like he's having a philosophical conversation, but the whole time he's in Freddy makeup. It's hilarious. The guy is so funny.
In that documentary, does he talk about going out to dinner in the Freddy makeup?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that one. I didn't rewatch. I'd seen it a few times, and sometimes I'll rewatch it, but unfortunately, I didn't have time to rewatch the making of again prior to this. I would have liked to, because it is very enjoyable. And I think it's on, YouTube. It's on all the DVDs. Pretty easy to find. It's about a 45-minute watch, but it's fun. It's cool. Great time capsule of just them being at the peak of a franchise, Yeah.
So what do you guys think for a modern audience? And David, we're going to put you in that category. So someone coming to this for the first time, how do you think they're going to feel about Dream Master? You think they're going to be into it, or is it maybe not going to hold up for them?
Had they seen the other movies?
Let's say they've seen just 1, 2, and 3 so far. So they're watching them in order.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is cool. This is fine. It's they're all kind of the same, but they're putting a polish in different spots in this one. So it's if you like the other ones, there's no reason not to like this one. This one's elevates it, I think.
You think that still works? Like it did in 88, you think it achieves the same thing now?
I mean, why not? I don't know. It's all the same to me.
I mean, it's hard because those of us that have seen it so many times, we're talking about, like, we can be critical from a different angle because we know it so well.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. That's the thing. This is what I'm confounded by, because it's almost I enjoyed this one the most, but also so have the two of the other people on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you guys all like all sorts of shit I don't like. So it's like, we're in the same boat on this one.
Yeah.
But I don't know, coming to all this from if no one had seen it growing up or whatever, or I don't know. I don't know if people would be still clamoring for more. I don't know. Maybe they would like this Freddy. It's really hard because contextually, because of how pop culturally relevant he was for a few years there.
Yeah.
And then he just sort of like, and he's like Spuds McKenzie, or the Budweiser frogs.
Max Headroom.
He's Max Headroom. Yeah.
The Coke, the bear, the Coca-Cola bear.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. I probably wouldn't recommend this to anybody for any reason, but I liked it. You know what I mean?
That's what I think. Without the context of him being so ingrained in pop culture, I don't know if they get the comedic, lighter version of Freddy. I don't know if a modern audience would go for it as much as the first film.
And plus, the lines aren't that good. They're not that good. Like, they're okay, but they were riffing on set or whatever. Like his one-liners they're not that funny. They're not that good.
They were in 88.
No, of course. But you know what I mean? I mean, maybe. I don't know.
$1 million puns.
For a 10-year-old, they were golden.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, absolutely. I don't know. I just feel like, that's the thing. He's supposed to be this quick man. He's got like maybe 2 that I think really work, and then the rest should be a little more clever, I think. I don't know.
I think people who love 80s nostalgia might love this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like that's
but
the
they
wheelhouse
would
for the
also,
modern audience.
They would also know that Freddy, the context of Freddy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that has to be part of it for these later movies, or mid and later movies.
Yeah.
It's gonna be real interesting when we get to Freddy's Dead, the 6th movie.
Well, what's great about that is 7 is right after it.
Yep.
So
perfect.
Which I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm legitimately excited about 7 because I haven't seen that one in a really long time, and I did like it then, and so I'm interested to see how it is now.
Yeah.
but we got a little bit. So
Not when we do Year of Shocktober.
Yep. Then we'll get to it real quick. But for now, we're going to have to wait. And is it time? Should we come back to 6 degrees of ReconCinemation? Are we ready? Has anyone been able to come up with a link?
Apparently, you came up with one an hour and a half before I even said Dreamscape.
Right.
Yeah.
Hoity-toity pants over there.
Before I go, David or EK, do you guys have any connections to Dreamscape?
No, I was hoping I could, but I didn't even try.
Okay.
I was more excited to see what you guys came up with.
Gee whiz. So, well, I figured something out. I figured a path. Yeah. So Rennie Harlan directed Deep Blue Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Deep Blue Sea has LL Cool J in it. LL Cool J was in Any Given Sunday with Dennis Quaid, who was in Dreamscape.
I love that, dude.
That is
love
great.
that.
Wow, that's a good one.
That tracks, dude. I love it.
That works. I did come up with a different path, but I think I like yours better. I'm going to go Robert Englund to Johnny Depp, Nightmare on Elm Street 1. Johnny Depp to Michael Madsen, Donnie Brasco. Michael Madsen to Dennis Quaid, Wyatt Earp.
Oh, that's fucking great.
That's good too.
Mine's easy. Like that's the easy path. You took the same length of a path,
and you were able to put
great...
Madsen in there, which we know is a favorite.
No, that rocks.
If I can lead any roads through Michael Biehn, Michael Madsen, Tom Sizemore, Chris Penn, I'll do it.
So this is the second episode we've done this, and I like that in both episodes, the people with the challenge have come up with different paths. I like that we can have multiple paths for each of these things. Yeah. Which I imagine will be true each time, but I like the fact that there's going to be multiple paths. So cool.
It'll be fun to see where the game goes.
Good job, dudes.
Yeah. And EK, in case you didn't catch, like we're not just doing the actors like just Kevin Bacon 6 degrees. We're doing the director, producer, writers, whatever, or composer, whatever, to jump around. So that creates a lot more pathways, I think, too.
That's awesome.
Fun,
it's so much fun to see what can be done. It's just crazy to see the path form.
Like who's worked together and how they connect.
So cool. Yeah.
It's a big small world.
I'm going to do all one with key grips.
There you go.
Oh my god. Well, this was super fun, guys. EK, it's always, I say it every time, it's so much fun having you here on the show, especially talking about the Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
Yeah, I feel like I stretched it out about an hour longer than it needed to be, so sorry.
Are you kidding?
It is fun.
Talking Freddy doesn't get old.
It's such a fun movie, and I would say, my wrap up would be, I'm the opposite, where the more I watch it, the more forgiving I am. Like I don't need it to be a perfect film. I don't need the characters to be fleshed out. I just think that they're fun, and I think that this is a special effects extravaganza, and the score is awesome. Mm-hmm. Everybody does a competent job, and really, you're just looking for a good time and want to have a fun watch. It does hold up in that way. So I'm glad we got to talk about it, because I think given the circumstances, everybody did the best with what they could. And the end result is, yes, some of his lines aren't that great, but there are moments of kind of brilliance in this film too. And I think one of the best lines that I opened up with as a joke, but it's true, is when he first comes back to life, and it's this really creepy scene, and he's still in shadow, and he puts his hat on, and he says, "You shouldn't have buried me. I'm not dead." Like that's a zinger, like, but not in a funny way. Mm-hmm. That's disturbing. If you actually are terrified, as Kincaid was, and you now know the person you thought you had finally defeated has just come back, and he's got you in a corner, and he tells you that, like, damn, what a way to set the tone of the film. Kind of wish they would have kept that, but regardless, there are moments in this film that do hold up very, very well, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Well, let me just clarify. Despite all my downer talk at the beginning, I still really enjoy this movie. Like, it's
Yeah, it's not like brilliant, but it's still cool.
It at one point in my life, it was probably, if I were to rank them, my favorite of all of them. And now it's probably the third, right? So it's like it's come down a couple notches, but it's still very high on the list.
Yeah, it's life experience too. You know,
Yeah.
you can't
and I'm
expect
just
to be the same person you were when you were a
just
kid.
an older curmudgeon now, you know. What are you gonna do?
Well,
You
I
have
think
refined
a lot
taste.
of these nightmare movies, the opinion's going to change. I mean, as society changes, right? Like, look at part 2. That that was shunned and like totally forgotten about. That was even like they wouldn't even talk about it. And then now that one has such relevance, and looking at it is a really strong film. It's a different Freddy, and it's not this Freddy, but it's really strong in its own way and about something completely different than most of the other Freddy movies. So, so I think it's okay that, I mean, as time goes on and we as humans change and evolve, that we're going to look at these movies a little differently. But I think the general consensus is 4 was always up there as people's number 1 or 2. And probably now it's like 2 or 3. The majority, I would think, would say that. You know, I think what is number 1 will change a little bit. For some people, it's 3. Some people, it's 1. I think now there are some people who the second film is. It's being every year. It's getting more and more kind of street cred as like the best Freddy movie, even though it breaks some of the Freddy rules. But it's okay. So I think my favorite is definitely the 6th movie.
Awesome.
Definitely.
The Dark Horse.
Can't wait to hear why in 2 years.
In 2 years, yeah. All I'll say is Johnny Depp's in that movie. But by the way,
I think is that the one that Rachel takes the reins for?
Yep.
I'll go to bat with her a little bit. Like she did her time and deserved a crack at it.
There's some fun stuff.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But before
it's
we
not
get
as
there,
bad as 5.
Yeah.
So
we are going to cover Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, next Shocktober. So we're setting this up a year in advance.
Yeah.
PK, obviously.
When I say
invited.
bad, it's awesome.
Oh, I'll be there. I got a standee from the video store of him pushing the crib, and I had it in my bedroom for years. Yeah.
You're gonna show us, right? You've got access.
I looked for it, man. I wish I still had. I thought it was at my parents' house, and when I was cleaning it out, didn't find it. But I had it for a long, long time.
Well, EK, what do you got coming up on Laser Graves? Where can people catch that?
Lasergraves.com. You can catch all the back episodes. You can follow us on Instagram at Lasergraves, and kind of anywhere and everywhere you get your podcasts. Check it out. There's a little something for everybody. Thank you, guys. Honestly, this always never lost on me how much fun it is that you bring me back, and it's always a blast, and always end up stretching your episodes on way too long, but I really do have fun on here. It's so much fun.
I think we should go for a 3-hour episode with you.
Well, we're damn close.
Well, we did with the thing, but
yeah.
Great
having you.
Well, yeah.
Thanks for being here, man. For sure.
So everybody, check out Laser Graves if you haven't already. Anywhere you get your podcasts, it's an awesome look back at a lot of 80s movies, pop culture things, like personality profiles. It's a fantastic series that EK covers. And you can check us out. We're ReconCinemation Podcast on all the social media platforms except Threads. We're not on that. check out our archives at ReconCinemation.com. Give us a 5-star rating and review. It always helps us boost the show. And we've got a lot more fun stuff coming up in Shocktober. We will wrap up Shocktober with Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. So stick around. There's a lot more fun. We will see you guys next time on ReconCinemation.
Take care.
Bye now.
Movies
for guys who like movies. The master of all nightmares has returned. Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. You want 'em, we've got 'em. Movies for guys who like movies. 10:05 Eastern tonight, only on the Superstation.
How many penis monsters are in part 4?
Zero.
Zero, baby.
There's 0 penis things.
One gaping hole
Yeah.
where a penis monster should be.
If the two films combined.
But was that a double entendre? I don't know.